All right, so apparently not everything that Elon taught us last night is 100%, true. So let's go over and correct the record. But I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit surprised once again that the reaction, especially by the stock market, is so drastic. I know that wasn't the best quarterly report for Tesla, but I thought the negatives that they had kind of were offset by some positives as well. Like for example, that they've lost a little bit over 400 million, which is more than people expected, kind of was offset by the fact that they're sitting on a humongous pile of cash. JB leaving. Yes, he is one of the most important people at Tesla, but at the same time, the Drew, the guy who's taken over, he's been at Tesla for as long as JB has been. The JB is gonna adult supervise him for a while, and not everything JB has done was perfect. All right, we can admit there were a few, maybe a little bit issues with Tesla in the last few years, and maybe that it's time for new blood, and it could be a good thing. So I thought it was kind of even, and we kind of already forgot that they've delivered a record amount of cars. They've delivered in the last year more cars that they've delivered in all of these years in their history before that. So I don't know. I'm just not really understanding why everybody kind of overreacting. But at the same time, there were a few things that I really just didn't. There was a bit of a BS, I have to say. So let's correct the record. By the way, if you're one of those people who just absolutely allergic to any type of negative information about Tesla, and any information that does not make Tesla or Elon Musk look like 100% perfect company and gods, you might take some Benadryl or hide under your desk or whatever, because you might get a bit of a rash here. And again, this is not a Tesla hater type of the video. This is just kind of things that you're gonna hear about this probably in the next Q3 report. So might as well talk about it right now. So our expectations are a little bit more realistic. So let's get to it. Welcome to E4Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, so as I said, unfortunately, shorts are having a bit of a good time today. This does not look good. This is probably looks like one of the worst drop-off days, one of the worst percentage losses for Tesla in the last few years. Again, I think it's an overreaction, but whatever. But let's get to something. Let's get to number one, something that I'm a little bit embarrassed that I didn't notice this. And this is the statement in the report. It said Model 3 once again the best-selling premium vehicle in the United States, outselling all of its gas-powered equivalents combined. And then they gave us this chart right here, and I was like, whoa, look at that, that's really awesome. And yeah, and I didn't really notice that there's only 4 cars there, where there's way more cars in that same category. As a matter of fact, you can even see there's a BMW 3 Series, but as we know, that got split up into 3 Series and 4 Series, and 4 Series is still very much on par with the performance Model 3 if you want to compare, especially price-wise. So that wasn't even included. But apparently, and the only reason I kind of thought about this because I woke up and I saw the Inside EV's article about it, and they pointed out, and this is their chart here, there are quite a few cars out there that are equivalent. Now, I don't know what the Lincoln MKZ is, but apparently they sold a few. A bit of a surprise that Alfa Romeo Giulia, right? People call it Giulia, but I like the name Giulia. That one did not sell much. As a matter of fact, less than 1,000 units per month. I gotta say, if they had I'm in love with the design of this car. If I wasn't into this electric car thing, I would totally own one. And or whenever this one goes electric, I'm definitely the first one to buy. I drove one at one of the journalist events about a year ago. Absolutely love the car. It's also very affordable. You can put a few $1,000s down and $300 a month, something really cool. So I'm surprised that it hasn't been really selling. But yeah, so all of these cars together, as you can see, and I don't even see BMW 4 Series here either. So I'm not really sure if this list is complete. 61,000 units in Q2 in the United States. Now, As you remember, Tesla sold about 77,000 of Model 3s in the last quarter, but that's globally. Now, Inside EVs, they actually track the US sales as well, and they're saying it's about 44, 45,000, so it's way less than 61 here. But if you remember, one of the analysts on the call yesterday asked Elon by stating that 70% of all Model 3s were actually sold in the United States. He was talking about, tax credit phase out and stuff like that. So even if we go by his numbers, that still brings us to about 54,000. So either way you look at it, this whole statement about Tesla outselling all of the competitors is not true. And by the way, they didn't really need to make this. They could have just said, hey, we're outselling top 3 of our biggest competitor, or even forget about that. What if they could have said, hey, we're outselling BMW 3 Series? Like, that already is an epic statement, right? Because BMW 3 Series has always been a king of this category. So dethroning that model is already a humongous achievement. So that's, yeah, I just, this is where Tesla needs a PR department or marketing department, because they would not make this up. They would have definitely spun it in an even better way without compromising sort of facts and stats on this. So I didn't like this, not a big deal, but nevertheless. All right, now the second one that I'm going to talk about is a big deal. And before that, a quick reminder that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out all electric SUV vehicle and bike coming to US and Europe at the end of the next year, starting at only $45,000. That's before the incentives. Join myself and over 50,000 of other people, or maybe it's even longer, the line is even longer, to reserve one. Takes about $0 and about a minute of your time. Go to the description of this video to reserve yours today. All right, so the second one, and this is something that Elon mentioned, that he predicts that the Q3 Tesla is going to break even. And here's the thing. Now, we don't know if that's a fib yet, but think about this. Tesla tried really hard this quarter. I mean, they really pushed to deliver almost 100,000 cars, which is definitely impressive. It's their record. I think it's one of the best things that happened to Tesla this year. So that's awesome. And they've had benefit from the end of what's going to hurt them next month is the phase out of the tax credit. I didn't know how to phrase it in my brain, but anyway. So the next month, not as many people will probably buy, especially Model 3, because that's almost $2,000. A significant price, percentage of the price, especially if you're getting a lower model. So that's so how are they? And they lost $400 million doing that. Now that is down from about 700 plus million loss from the previous quarter, where they sold like half of the cars that they sold this quarter, right? It was like 55,000 or something like that. So they've just majorly increased the sales of the cars, and yet the loss only was cut in half, and even not that. So how are they supposed to break even? How many cars will they have to sell to break even next quarter? Because it does not seem like they can make more cars. I mean, by a little maybe, but all lines are 100% busy. And yes, they're cutting down on some costs, but there's no way they're going to wipe out this a relatively big quarterly loss with just those little cuts here and there. It's just not going to be possible. So if you ask me, unless there's some big solution, a new production line and a new tent somewhere, or something that will give them an ability to sell more cars and therefore cut down on the loss, I don't see how it's going to happen. And here's the thing. There is money to be made, and I was kind of disappointed with this in the report, with the solar products, right? They once again are not in a good place, even though, solar roofs technically been selling solar panels they've been making, and I think there's a latest version from Panasonic that are super slick and thin that look great, kind of almost blend in with your roof. Obviously power packs and power walls and stuff like that. That part of Tesla is just not jamming at all. So if I could see that gap being closed without increasing the production or sales of the cars, because I don't, it would be from the Tesla energy products, and that has not been going well. I am actually surprised and disappointed. That probably should have been my fifth or sixth surprise from the yesterday's reports, because that is not they have so much potential there, and yet they are not selling those. So if I see improvement there, then I can see how they close the gap. So that's number three. Let's get to number three. That's number two. Let's get number three. And this is Tesla service. Now, this was mentioned in the report. Elon also mentioned it as well, that they're improving it. And I am it hurts my heart to talk about Tesla service. One of the biggest reasons why I decided not to get another Tesla, at least for now, after owning 3 of them over the span of 6 years. And even my last visit, when I was turning my car in, I was still treated like a lap of the Tesla service. And from the remarks that Elon made during the meeting, during the Q&A session, it doesn't seem like he gets it. He thinks that fixing this problem is opening up more Tesla service centers. Now, that does help, in a distribution of parts does help, and I know they've been improving that, but I don't think he visited a service center ever, because the biggest problem is actual service. When I come in almost every time, unlike almost any other dealership, nobody comes to you when you get to the service line out of the door. Just the way that you're being treated is just not very cool. The long wait times on the phones, forget about opening new Tesla service centers. Why don't you hire a few, I don't know, $20 an hour people in call centers, or maybe have it outsourced to Philippines or India, whatever, so people don't have to be stuck on the phone for such a long time. Now, I own a couple of Facebook groups that are, one of them is pretty large, over 30,000 members now, and I have to approve all this, posts every day, and I do not see a decrease in rate by which people complain about Tesla service. Granted, there are a lot of people are saying that, hey, I had a great, actual experience with Tesla service. And of course, there are people who have great Tesla service. I have no doubts about that. But from what Elon was saying, I think he's solving a logistical problem rather than solving a heart problem. They have a heart problem there in terms of they don't have heart in terms of servicing the customers. Maybe they're not hiring the right people. Maybe they don't have right policies. But to me, it just looked like Elon just could not really figure out what the actual problem and complaint is. And a lot of times, it's not even that. It's something that they do or don't do on the user interface for us. I mean, I keep telling the story about how, I wouldn't get Tesla over-the-air updates until I realized I had to call them and be on hold for an hour, that, I have to have a Wi-Fi in my garage now, which was not the case for the last 5 years. And then it has to have 4 bars, which I don't have in my garage. I don't know how many people do have it in their garage. So that was all a really bad experience. And I know I probably had one of the worst experiences out of everybody who ever owned Tesla. And I got to tell you, I was on a first date yesterday, and I literally brought that up. It just worked that in conversation. I was like, you know what I hate? You maybe hate this drink that we're having, but I hate Tesla service. No, that's not how it went. But anyway, I literally talked about it last night. So, let me know if you've seen some Tesla service improvements. But overall, this is something that, just like I said, you're going to hear from Elon once again talking about in the next quarter. You will hear a question probably about Tesla service that are going to be crowdsourced by Tesla owners. So those 3 things that I thought we needed to correct a record on, though I do have to say that none of them are really that huge, except for maybe the next quarter not being profitable. At least that's what I think. Again, let me know in the comment section. Quick reminder about our program that we're running here called a Feed a YouTuber. Only $5 a month, and this guy gets shelter, water, and video equipment, and maybe even press passes to the next event he'll be reporting on. If you want to donate, go to patreon.com/eFairElectric. Well, actually, you do get something for it, because you get to watch me live, and there's much better access and stuff like that. So love my Patreons. Thank you so much for doing that. And of course, if you're on Instagram, there's some behind the scenes stuff that I post, and some funny stuff that I post at E4Electric. So and yeah, maybe a quick reminder to get on our VIP list. It's a free thing. We send it out every Saturday, bonus material. You love it. eFairElectric.com/VIP, and of course, it's free. All right, let's get to writing those comments. Let me know what you think. And rather than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.